And then I'll do it the standard one here. I'm going to stop the share to do that. And that should take care of that.
Yeah, Nuria's reconnecting, so keep talking, Roger.
Okay, well, I'll wait for her to get on before I do the introduction then.
I just joined. This is Nuria.
Oh, very good. I can hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything or see anything.
Yeah, so. I recommend that if we're not sharing anything, that you go up to your view. If you're on a PC, in upper right, there's a view where you can decide how you want to look at just a few people or the whole group, and you can expand the view. Even after we share the screen, you can make the screen bigger or smaller and more people showing up. So using that vertical bar. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for it shows the card agenda and other things. So welcome everybody to the November 7th, 2023 monthly card meeting. This is one of our normal monthly meetings. Next month will be a quarterly meeting where we have more people from EGLE present. So this meeting should go pretty quick, although we do have some big news and a lot to cover. We'll try to get through it forthwith, maybe even quicker than what the agenda says. So like I said, the meetings are recorded. Also mute yourself unless you're speaking, and when you want to raise your hand, there's an option on the on your Zoom screen to raise your hand, and you can also post chats if you want to make comments without raising your hand, and those will show up to whoever you send it to. So with that, this is the agenda here. Is everybody seeing my screen okay?
Yeah.
So I call to order. So I'll turn it over to Beth for approval of last month's minutes. And this is for the members who have been at 3 of the 5 last meetings. And I think I've already had a chance to review this. There's not any changes that I note here of anybody commenting. You want to take over, Beth, on this?
Sure. Yeah, they've been posted for a little while.
This is an XCOM vote, right?
Yes. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
James, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jack.
Thank you. I'm Jack Eaton. I'm the Executive Director of CARD. We've completed our officer elections, and I'm happy to say that all of the nominees were elected. I'm trying to look at that just once. So Roger will continue as our chair. Mike will continue as our vice chair. Beth, bless her heart, will continue as our secretary until somebody steps up and volunteers for that. And Vince will be treasurer. We've added James and Rita Locke Caruso as members of the executive board. So I'm happy that all of you were reelected. I serve at your pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
Any comments on our election?
Looking forward to working for everybody.
All righty.
Thanks, Beth, for keeping track of it.
Yes.
Thank you, Beth.
Vote early and vote often.
And so now I'm going to move on to the US EPA update. I believe we have a couple of representatives from EPA. Which of you will be speaking on this evening?
Yeah, this is Nuria. I will be speaking today, and also I believe that Karen Chen, she's a CIC, also attending the meeting today. I'll go over some staff things in my presentation. So I will share my screen.
Oh, I gotta make you a co-host.
Oh, can you make me a co-host, please?
Yes. Make co-host, and then I stop my share.
Okay. Oh, here we go. So I share my screen.
Yeah, you got to pick which window or which monitor. If you have more than one monitor.
Is that working? Can you
Not
see
yet.
me?
Not
Not
yet. You
yet.
probably have to accept the share.
My apologies. We work with Teams.
Yeah, it's different.
So entire screen. Share.
There we go.
And
Yep, that looks good.
It's coming slowly. There it is. Whoops.
okay.
Yep.
Do you see?
We have it now. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Let me just go like that.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's a good occasion to come to monthly meetings. We like to come to the quarterlies, but I thought this was a good time. So thanks for having me. What I'll just do today, and for those who don't know, I'm Nuria Muniz. I'm actually supervisor for the site assessment and grants section in Superfund in Chicago, Region 5. And just going to go over some quick things about the site inspection that was just published. It's complete. We'll go over what are the next steps for HRS doc record and what does entail. So, state concurrence and some other possible steps. And then some staff reassignments. So it should be not too long. So I like to start with where we are in the process. If you remember, we just released the site inspection report. This is where we actually, so we had a PA that said the site was scored high enough to move forward. Then we did a site inspection with a field event and a sampling event. And because we have so much information on this site, we have decades of information, we feel confident that we don't have to go to the usual next step. For other sites, we usually go to this site, we call this expanded site inspection, where we collect even more data. So we're going to skip that report, and we are recommending to move to an HRS package or doc record. So you'll hear me talk about doc record. I'm talking about the hazard ranking system package. This is a document, very complicated and formal document that that is used to propose the site to the NPL. So we are right at this arrow here. And then later on, I'll have kind of like a little bit more of a zoom of what this entails. So if this is the proposal of the site, and this is the finalization, and what are the steps there. So regarding the site inspection report, it's complete and available to the public. If you don't have the link, you just have to Google EPA Gelman, and you will see the webpage. And from there, look at the November 2023 update, and there's a related documents link, and you will have access to all of those. You will notice that some documents are redacted for PII, and that's because we have different ways of keeping personal identifiable information than the state does. So things that you're accustomed to seeing, you may not see in our reports. And then Appendix F are the lab results. This is like the packages that came directly from the lab. Most of you don't need those. You can see the validated reports that are tabulated in a spreadsheet in Appendix F, but if you really want to go into the lab results, you will have them available hopefully tomorrow. It's a big document, PDF, and so be patient. And then, so we intend for our site reports, and for any report that we do, we really want to be factual. I hear some rings, and I can't see you. Do you need it? Is anybody saying anything?
We just had to admit another person or two. That's the
Oh,
thing.
that's a time for that. Okay.
By the way,
Sorry.
that little note at the bottom of your screen, you can
Mhm.
either hide that or drag it someplace out of the way if it's covering up anything.
Thank you. We'll do that right now. Yeah, and I'm not, just chime in if you, because I'm not seeing you guys. I'm just seeing my presentation. Okay, so what I was saying is that we really try to be as factual as we possibly can, and sometimes we don't get it right. So we would like your comments if you have them. Just please send them in writing. You can write EPA whenever you want, but if for this particular thing, we're asking if you could send it within 30 days, we would appreciate it, so we can consider them as we put together the doc record. And this is not a formal process. When we usually sign off on an SI, we will take any comments that come. But this is not a formal process requesting input. This is not part of the process. That will come later. So again, some topics are subject to interpretation. You may not like how we said something or how we interpret something. We'll take the comments, but others may be more of a factual nature. Like you got this wrong. Here's the reference, and those, if we get those, we may just enter an errata sheet that goes on top of the document. And either way, if you send us comments, it will become part of the site file. So other aspects to remind you of on the site inspection report is that we don't, when we do HRS and we score sites, we don't define the extent of the site. We don't say this is your site and no more. We just, so in the HRS doc record, the same thing. Like when we propose a site, we just say, here's the releases, and it comes up to here, and that's all we know. A site is actually, the extent and nature of the site is actually done at the RIFS once the site is listed to the MPL. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Whatever you're seeing in the site inspection report does not define the extent of the site. We are evaluating a release to the environment, and we try, and that is attributable to a particular source, in this case Gelman, and the contaminant, of course, is 1,4-dioxane. I'm just going to move back to going into the next steps. And as you know, we are in this little arrow here. And then we're going to propose the site to the MPL if everything goes well, and then the site becomes final. So I'm just going to blow up these steps over here. What does that mean? And that's what it means. So so the first thing that we're working on it right now, and you will want to know a timeline, and what you're going to see is these are the steps that we have. I'll give you some relative timeline on best case scenarios. I'm not going to go into the worst case scenarios because it's just not beneficial to our purpose. So here's the state concurrence. We are actually requesting formal state concurrence from the state. Meanwhile, we also got the 2023 analytical results that we did this summer. And so we're just getting the validations of those, and we'll be providing those to the residents, and we'll also be sharing that with our data agreement partners. And I, we just got validated results on this, and they're still tabulating, so it's going to be a month to get those results to you, but we have them. Then, and we will use those analytical results for the doc record. So they will be integrated to a doc record. And once you have that draft, and that drafting has this is the document that gets released. So you release the score, you release your argument, you release all the information you have to the public. So it's a legal, it needs to be legally defensible, right? So it goes through a quality assurance program, and we get comments, and then we do revisions, and then we get comments, and then we get revisions. So just, multiply this by 3. And then if we got your state concurrence all formalized, we are able to take that doc record. So this is the doc record. The proposal in itself is, or what you call the HRS package in the other slide. That's what that is. There's 2 rules a year in normal years. There's one in spring and one in fall. So we're saying 2024. I'm not allowed to talk about any timing, but we're moving in this direction. And as you know, we expect to have state concurrence, although we don't have that formal letter yet. We're working on that. After that, after a site becomes proposed to the NPL, there's a public comment period. So the entire package, just kind of like how you can download everything, you can look at everything, and then there's a specific place where you can put written comments. And you got 60 days to do that. And then EPA will take all the substantial comments. So you can say, I like your idea of listing the site, or I don't like it. That's not substantial comments. We'll take those. It's good to see those. But what EPA addresses are the comments that are substantial, that could jeopardize the scoring of the site. In that case, so EPA needs to address each one of them. This is all put in a centralized place. So you will be able to see all the comments, and you will be able to see how EPA addresses it. The normal time to do that in the best case scenario is 6 months. And then it becomes final to the NPL. And so that is that's the process of that area. So I'm not giving you timing. I just want you to think about what are the different options, and just come to conclusions of that we're talking about a year here or more. And then lastly, as I mentioned, I'm a supervisor for the site assessment and grants section. I took the position when my boss retired, Denise Boone. And Erica also has my new position. She is not new to the site. She knows the site better than I do. She's a new NPL coordinator from Michigan. And so you're in really good hands. And Diane Russell has also been the community involvement coordinator for years now. She's the one that you need to contact if you have any specific questions. Then her information is listed in the webpage. So, these are not new contacts. They've been with us for a while. So that is all I have. Any questions? Let me go back to see you all there.
So
You better stop sharing your screen whenever you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, James, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, for the presentation. And this is very, very good news. So I'm really excited to hear of this. One question I have in terms of the timetable, you mentioned the state concurrence letter. When do you anticipate having that happen? I assume there's no difficulties at this stage of the game.
I would assume in a few weeks at the most. But,
Okay.
Again, I can't say, right? I know that our formal request is going out soon. Mm-hmm. And you see that there's receptiveness from the state. So I don't anticipate any issues there, but until I have it in my hands, I can't say anything else.
I understand, but to me, it sounds like good news, and thank you very much. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Nuria, thank you. Can you tell us exactly what the state is concurring with? Are they concurring with the SI? Are they concurring with proceeding with the hazard ranking system? What does it mean exactly?
Yeah, great question. Yes, the concurrence is to we say this site is eligible for the NPL, and the next step is to propose. Do you agree? And do they agree with the proposal, the formalization of the listing or the designation of the site as an NPL? And for any other site, it would be an easier question when the site is under state, consent judgment. It's more of a consideration. Let me say it like that. But yeah, they need to concur with EPA designating the site to the NPL. So then EPA will take jurisdiction over the site, and it would be a slow transition. And again, everything indicates that the state is in concurrence. It's a formality at this point, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. Oh, Jim, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it. Do you have any best scenario, worst scenario for when this could become an EPA funded site? Like what's the least amount of time or the most amount of time it might take? Thank you.
Is that in your job title? Go ahead.
So going back to the presentation, if you look at my exploded zoomed area, that's a year. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is litigation, and I'm not. I don't want to comment more than that.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Before you go away, Nuria, you might want to change your view of the participants to gallery view. So I think it was popping up whoever was talking at the time. You go up to the upper right, you have a view option, and under there you can click gallery view. Then you get to see everybody. The people
there you go.
cameras are all tiled up at the top.
Thank
and then
you.
as people get added, they will get added at the bottom. Just wanted that'd be a better experience for you. And then when we go to start sharing screens, then you can change that if you want. You can adjust the size, how many people you see.
So you can actually move it. All right, I'll practice this next time.
Yeah, you'll see a bar between the screen and the people, and you can see more people or less screen or vice versa. That's all.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for your attention. Oh, we've got another hand. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yes, I just want to mention for anyone who may not have seen it that Congresswoman Debbie Dingell issued a press release, and I'm looking for the date here, November 3rd, and there is a quote from the EGLE director, Phil Roos, in that press release. And if people aren't familiar with it, I can read it. It's just 2 sentences, or you're welcome to just look it up yourself. But there is support on his part as the EGLE director, and it just ends with, "We'll support them and EPA going forward." So I think it is just a technicality. And so this again is very good news. And I think that Phil Roos is an excellent leader for EGLE at this time.
Yeah. I think we need to give our local officials, elected officials, a big hand for staying on board and all on one team on this. It really makes a difference.
All righty. Go ahead and put your hand down, Kathy. And now I'm going to move on to Zach, who is representing Debbie Dingell's office.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm Zach Hayward here from Congresswoman Dingell's office. Thanks for having me here. I know Georgia Frost from our team usually joins these calls. Unfortunately, she could not make it tonight. Good to see everyone on the call as well. I know some friends are on here. Kathy stole my thunder. Absolutely.
Oh, I apologize. I knew
No.
you were I just couldn't help myself. I'm so excited, but thank you.
No worries at all. I mean, we're obviously very thrilled about the news as well. And, as soon as we got the notice, we called, Mrs. Dingell connected with EPA and EGLE. And I was going to point to the exact same thing. Dan and Roger, I believe we sent the a release over to you guys, but I'm happy to bump it as well if you want to distribute. But yeah, the first quote.
I didn't have it queued up. I would have had it queued up, knowing you're going to refer.
No worries here. Sorry, I'm looking at it.
I can make you a co-host if you want to share it.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm doing the call on my phone and it's on my computer, so I can't share my screen with it. But
well, let me look. Let me find it then, and go ahead and keep talking.
I think almost everyone, Roger, has seen it. It was in the Ann Arbor News.
Yeah, and it's on a list on SRSW and the news things and everything. Yeah, so.
But yeah, I was going to put that same quote as well, just for the hesitation on the state concurrence. That people may be thinking. I mean, yeah, the first quote that Phil gave us was, make sure to ensure smooth transition to federal oversight and that residents are protected throughout the process. So, definitely firm in the camp of the, formality, cross our T's, dot our I's on this here. But yeah, it was, it was nice looking at our press release on November 12th, 2021. We sent in a letter requesting, this site to be, to be designated to have the opportunity to be listed on the MPL. So to have it come full circle here, I know it's one step of many that still need to happen here, but, it was a big step nonetheless. And, I really want to thank you all as well. You're saying before with the elected officials being unified on it, that certainly helps, but certainly helps with our community leadership here to be, organized and unified as well. So, with Mrs. Dingell, we're still gonna stay close on this through the entire process here, because I know we still have some more steps. That 60-day window for looking over everything is key. It's a good report. I can bump up our press release, and I just downloaded the zip file that has all the information in there. It's a lot to go through, so it's really, really good data that EPA just shared on their website here, and the listing is live on EPA, and so it has a nice little timeline. But we're going to focus on making sure we stay on this process, and we have a good relationship with the new director at EGLE. So as well, ultimately are getting, hopefully we're getting to this full transition process here. We'll work with our state partners and state and federal levels here to make it as smooth as possible. I know it was mentioned, and I know I'm preaching to the choir on this. Nothing's been a fast process, but we'll keep pushing to make it as fast as possible here.
Go ahead.
Happy to answer any questions or take down any questions if I am unable to answer.
I'll just interject here that on SRSW website, where we try to keep track of all of the information, we have links to all of the other stakeholder sites. Mm-hmm. Of course, one of them is the US EPA site. And what I should be doing is putting some of these new press releases and things in under this. So let me show you what that is on here.
Yeah, I can. I'll have Georgia as well. If our anything in the past too, we can just bump them all up and make sure you have them all.
Yeah, and I'm sure all these other websites will have links to it as well once their websites are updated too. Mm-hmm. This I always use this as a go-to because I can get to any of the sites even when I'm looking up like South Township properties and things. I can go here and find it quicker than I can through the normal sites. So
great tool.
I just want to acknowledge the tremendous amount of effort that went into this by Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. She spent time educating new council members when there was turnover. She called me one Saturday night at 10 o'clock, talking about the EPA, and anyone who's gotten a call from Debbie Dingell at 10 p.m. knows that you don't sleep for a few hours afterwards because she's always fired up. But this would not have happened without our Congresswoman.
Right.
And so I just, Zach, whatever you can do to send the message to her about how appreciative we are. I appreciate it.
I can definitely pass that on, as we're the 7th here, 10 days out from the 17th deadline. I think she could use a little pick me up in DC right now.
Okay, well, we'll do whatever we can, or send her anything she needs besides hand warmers for the winter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll send some money in to keep the government running.
Yeah.
It was a fun experience for me as well. I know, I'm in my role here in Mrs. Dingell's office. I'm district director here, but my first job in politics, I was a field representative, and the first thing I started going to meetings for and working on for was this Gelman site. And so even, I worked in the governor's administration and came back and been here for a little over a year now, and seeing this news come through was a good feeling.
Yes.
Really good feeling.
Yes. So thank you again, Zach. And I'm going to turn this over to Dan Bicknell now, if he has anything further to say on the EPA process.
Well, I'd just like to thank Naria for all the good work that she's been doing, and very comprehensive. So we all appreciate it very much, Naria.
I think we could reach consensus on that. So
Thank you.
oh no,
My
thank
pleasure.
you. We really appreciate your work. All righty. With that succinct statement, I guess we can move on to the EGLE update. I think that was circulated by email today, was it, Roger? Are you mute? There.
Yeah, I sent Chris an email, and this was his reply. Let me make this a little larger. Actually, I probably have a version of it already. Where's my Zoom? There we go, 150 ought to do it. Yeah, so he's catching up after Dan Hamill passed away. He's still, but he's, and there's some new things that have taken some of his time, but he basically sent in this this email to say he did have some written replies to the topic, and that's what this is, of course. And then the Q3 data should be going up soon. That's the third quarter report with some maps that Gelman produces for 2023. Then he goes on to talk about the GIS with having to work through the different parties that are involved with their EGLE's version of the GIS, and responding to the Eastern Area Monitoring Plan. And that update will be coming, and then quarterly data. He wasn't sure how I get those quarterly reports. I actually get it from the EGLE website, so I'm just waiting for the website to be updated. And the same with the database. He's got some catching up there to do. So I get that ready for the end of the year, so I can do my annual Google Earth matchups with the latest data. And he's willing to set a meet and chat, and like I always try to do with any new official who's in the chain of command on this, to make sure that they're up to speed enough so when they make decisions, they have enough information. So I appreciated his quick response to this. That was really good.
Okay. And so I would remind card members that if you have a question you want to pose to EGLE, because they're not going to attend every meeting, you might want to submit those when there's a call for suggestions for the agenda. Because typically we've spent a lot of time on the EGLE updates. As we transition to the EPA, I think we'll probably be spending less time, but they're still in charge until the site is listed on the NPL and remedial efforts are determined.
I think there's a couple points on the updates there that he didn't address in his email, and I think Vince, I think, has already talked to him about the couple of these. Is that right, Vince?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. So I talked to Chris Sabota about continuing what Dan Hamill had done for us and did a great job for us. Uh, Sorry to see him pass on, but Chris did indicate that he would be taking over most of those roles and had indicated to me that they would try and do this shallow groundwater test in November. And I asked him that let me know because I would like to observe what they do. And he said he would do that. So I may send him another or call him or whatever and see what their schedule is, just to get a handle on, what their plans are. But I think it's important that we keep doing these tests. We've had what I would consider very high numbers in the west side. And with a lot of wet basements, I think there's real concern about exposures. This group put together an article that was published in a journal that said 150 part per billion is probably a concern. And we were close to 50 part per billion in West Park. So I think it's a big issue. I think it's, terrible that we have to deal with that, and the same with the drinking water wells in the townships. So, we need to make sure we get as much done as we can to prevent exposures. So, thanks.
Yeah, well, thanks for being a citizen volunteer and staying on top of this.
Yes, thank you very much. I see no other hands, so I'm going to move on to the old business section here.
And we got to get through this in like 15 minutes. So
yep. So
meet our schedule.
Yusuf isn't here. Does Kathy Knoll have anything to say about the interveners?
Gelman has filed a motion for summary disposition against Washtenaw County, and Washtenaw County has just recently filed their response to this motion. That's the only news I've heard from our attorney.
All right. Do you have copies of those pleadings?
I do. I have the response.
Okay. I'd love to have that publicly available. Yeah.
I'll forward it to you.
Keep a whole record of all that stuff. Beth.
Yeah, I just was wondering if when Nuria said that that Gelman can try to litigate with the EPA too, is that a possibility that people are worried about, or do we think that, I mean, they've been so successful litigating for all these years, everybody else?
I think you can count on them trying some litigation because their past practice has been to delay, through litigation. So yes.
And this is Nuria. There is a process, and there's a process to follow for appeal.
Yep.
So it's not just willy-nilly. They need to follow a process if they're going to go in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see no other hands on this item. I'm going to turn this over to Kristen from the County Health Department.
Hi there. I don't have any updates.
All right.
But no homeowner well sampling since our last meeting. Thanks.
I know of no other Washtenaw County issues, so I'm going to move on to Ann Arbor Township. Mike, do you have anything to report?
Well, on the testing that we reported on last time, those all came out non-detect. We do not currently have any plans to do additional testing at this time. On the card resolution, if you want to turn to that, Roger, I don't know if you want to bring it up. I can look at my own.
Well,
so this is
Mike, you're muted. You're muted.
I don't know how you did that.
Still
Mike.
muted, Mike.
Mike, you're muted, Mike. We can't hear you.
Where is it? Did he drop?
He's muted right now.
Oh,
Oh,
there you go. Okay.
and you're back. He's back muted.
It goes off
Yeah.
and on.
Yeah, you're still muted.
All right, I'll hold down the space bar.
Yeah.
I drafted a resolution for CARD to establish a residential treatment program. And as you can see, we had a number of comments. Thank you, Rita, for a comprehensive review and list of suggestions, and I'll go through these very quickly. First of all, let's see, we had one from James, who was questioning whether we should refer to this as a court order versus a fourth consent judgment. While that was an issue in the past as we discussed things, because there was not a fourth consent judgment, at this point in time there is one. So it is proper to refer to this as the consent judgment. Many of Rita's suggestions are differences between, I suspect, the way our two career paths cite to journals and such. Lawyers have what they call a blue book for citations, and it's a format that we are required to follow by a lot of rules of various courts, and that's what I used. So, for example, in our system, you cite first the document you're referring to here, CJ4, and then you cite to the page that it's in, identified as @2. I can see that Rita's practice is to cite to the page, and actually, I think for the purpose of this, since we got more non-lawyers and lawyers involved, it probably is a good idea to go ahead and switch all of the citations to refer to pages. She asked on another one whether how that since EGLE is not previously identified, and actually because the state is the appropriate party in here, how should we refer to it? Again, I said in my response that technically under the Blue Book, we would recite this as the state of Michigan ex-rel EGLE. And that's basically in relation to, and it makes more sense. I agree with her that we should do this at this time. And I would suggest that we sort of blend the two and just say that we change it to the state of Michigan on behalf of the department EGLE, basically. Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. As the next couple of them have to do with, as I said, various things, whether you put parentheses around the journal. Legally, we wouldn't, or the citation that you're using unless it's in the middle of a sentence. In this one, in the first one, it is in the middle, so it's appropriate to put it in. And the rest of them I wouldn't, but I don't really care.
I don't either. I mean, these were, yeah, they're suggested. And, an academic just can't read any document. I'm not.
Oh, well, listen, I'm always happy to pull out all of my notations. I still remember all the hand notations for editing, and I'd be happy
I'm
to use
almost
them
embarrassed
someday.
by all these.
Right. So then going through with it, as I said, most of them are not substantive. They're more the stylistic ones.
Right.
So we go through those. There are a couple, however, that I agree with her. We should again make the change. Let's see, can you go down a little farther? Most of them have to do is, again, as I said, whether there's parentheses and or not. There is one then, this one down here where we have above A, where payment is highlighted. Oh, let's go up to the one above that, and that is using the word request. And I see Roger changed one because we had talked about this a bit earlier today. It did read here by request, that EGLE request, that Gelman, etc. I don't think that we can use anything stronger given the nature of how this proceeds, but I do agree with Roger that probably just saying we ask that EGLE request, so on and so forth, eliminates the double use of request and carries forward. The next one has to do with this paragraph where payment is highlighted, which is in advance of what is numbered A. Well, Rita noticed there's something wrong there. She didn't quite notice what the wrong was. And that is that I had one version of the paragraph up here and then later decided, and that referred only to a drinking, the first one was the one that's currently under A, and it referred only to establishing a program for Scioto Township and Ann Arbor Township. Along the way, Dan had suggested to me that perhaps the better thing would be is to just ask for a residential drinking water program, including Ann Arbor Township and Scioto Township. And I think that's a good one. So in reality, what we should do is eliminate this paragraph down here that is identified as the first A, and the one above it that doesn't have anything should then become A, and the subsequent then ones don't need to be re-lettered.
Let me see if I got that straight. So up here,
that's A.
That should be A.
Yeah, and it's easier if you just delete this one down here, the next one, except for the A.
Yeah, except I got to
drag that sucker down there. Yeah.
So what I'm just going to do is make a temporary note here.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we'll get rid of this one, right?
Yep. Yep. Now you'll have the A probably still hanging out there. So yeah, that's why I said now you're going to end up renumbering. That's why I said
I'll renumber. Don't worry.
Shortcut is just go in here, cut this except for the A, and drop this guy down.
Right. Okay. I'm going to undo that change. What I do here between revs is I copy the marked up one, make a copy of it, and then all the changes are made to the final version. So if anybody uses the link, they end up at the final version. So this will be version final draft 3.
3, yeah. So then, then there's a couple of, Roger was good enough. I'm a Word guy, and this one, Roger translated this to me to Google, and it left a number of strange artifacts. So this next thing down here, this little blip, that's a Google artifact. It does need to come out. I don't know what it's supposed to mean or
not sure where you're looking.
Okay, after paragraph 3 and before paragraph D, there's this little red thing here.
Oh,
that doesn't.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that was not in my draft. It just showed up when it got.
So this area here just needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, you just need to knock out this artifact here.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and so the rest of those, and then there's a substantive one down here in E, and that is I had drafted this to say that the that any resident who is within a half a mile of where dioxane had been detected should have the right to request to be included in this residential sampling. It could be a lesser distance, but a half a mile seems to me to be a pretty good number. You could make it as short as 1,000 feet, but then you're going to knock out a whole lot of people who could respond to it. And at one point in time, someone had suggested a third of a mile, and that's 1,760 feet. So we could do that. I guess I suggest a half mile unless somebody's got a better suggestion. I'm willing to hear any suggestions on that.
Well, yeah, half a mile is quite a big chunk from somebody that has a hit. So for my property here, the hits are within a quarter mile of me, so it doesn't affect me. I can ask anytime.
I think a half mile is more than fair. If you
look, I think my inclination would be to leave it in there. I mean, essentially, we're asking EGLE to establish a program.
Right.
And if they think that's too high, they're going to make it smaller. But
yeah,
I think a half a mile is a fair way to go, at least on, and it's what I would ask for.
Okay.
We'll see how we go.
All good. Any comments from anybody?
Thanks, Mike, for all your work on this, and Dan and Roger.
So what I propose we do is I make these changes and have a way you can compare what we just went through with what the final version 3 is. in case you want to go back and check anything.
Yeah, Roger, there was
Then
one
we vote
more.
on it.
There was one more. I don't know where it's in red.
This one?
No, here it is. It's up here. Go on one little, it just, okay, there.
20%, yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking at this one. I said, it's true that there were a substantial number of sites that tested positive under method 522, but the county didn't detect it using its method.
Yeah.
To say about 40%, then you get into having to have a longer discussion because it's 40% of what? It's 40% of some group of them, and then you've got to distinguish them.
Right.
If somebody wants to do that work, you can do it.
The 40% is of the hits in SIO.
Okay, then I guess I'd just leave it a substantial number then.
Right. Yeah.
Since we're asking for all.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. There's no sense precipitating an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's take this out.
Take that out. Yep. And that takes care of one other one. Down here on the first or maybe it's the second where this, yeah, there it is, page 61 versus 64. When I tried to check, I had 64 in there. Rita said her version had 61. That is her version of CJ4. I tried to find the version I used at the time I drafted this today and couldn't find it. I did find a copy of CJ4 that was signed by everybody except the judge. It had all of the parties' signatures on it, and it was indeed on page 61 of that draft. So I'll
double check that.
I'm content to change it to 61. I don't know where I got 64, if a finger slipped or if it was really a different version, but that's the version I think most people have, is the unsigned by the judge, but signed by all the parties. So that's all the comments I have, and I thank all for them.
Go ahead, Kathy.
SIO is definitely interested in doing this also. I've discussed it with Will Hathaway and we're in agreement. But I was working with an older version, so I need to get this most recent updated version as soon as you've made the changes, Roger.
Right. The version that's in the agenda is this version in the link.
So when
that link will still point to the new version once it's done. So I'll let you know when it's done.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
And then we can vote on it.
Yeah.
Through email. We don't have to do it in this meeting.
We're going to leave it in this drive version until it's complete. Then we'll turn it into a PDF or a Word document. So if you see any Word documents now, that's not the one that everybody's editing. Thank you.
The link won't work then, but
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to invite additional comments and redrafting, I guess I'd do it in PDF, and then
I would too.
Yeah,
then will everybody be knowing what they're
exactly
looking at? They just
right.
Go back and check it.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
So, Mike, is Ann Arbor Township considering passing this as a resolution or a motion, or what is your plan?
Well, we've had a lot of meetings lately, and about other issues, but we haven't had one about that. I would fully expect that we would pass it, but I have not put it. It'll go to the next board meeting, which is November 3rd, Monday in November.
Yeah, we might be able to get this passed via email in the next week or so.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead and put your hand down, Kathy.
Okay.
I like the looks of this. I appreciate all the work that everybody's put into it, and I look forward to voting in favor of it. Moving along to SIO Township. Are there any updates from SIO?
No new information on the Knights of Columbus proposal. The Ann Arbor Water Focus Group is concluding its work. A report is going to be generated. It will be filed with the state. And the group is going to continue in some fashion. They're considering in what fashion at this point. So that hasn't been established yet, but there will be ongoing discussion about it in regular meetings in the future when it's a reformulated group.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any comments or questions about Scioto Township? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to the city of Ann Arbor. It's my understanding that we have a new participant from the city's water department, Aaron Donnelly, but I don't see that person here on the list. And I don't see Patty either, so I don't think that there's anybody representing the city at this meeting.
Yeah, Patty had a family emergency in Chicago, Jack.
Okay, so we're just going to pass over that and catch up with it at the next meeting. So let's move on to the executive board. Is there anybody to talk about the Yale Superfund research?
Yeah, sure. I had a discussion with Dr. Vasilis, and he wants us to identify 1 to 3 asks, major asks that we would like the Yale Center to pursue in working with us. And what he's really looking for is what's called specific aims in grant language. He wants to write an NIH grant to be able to expand the center's studies to include our Gelman site. And I just want to remind people, I don't know if we can share my screen. I can try. Let's see. It says
Well,
share
I haven't
screen.
made you a co-host, so I can make you a co-host. And then you can
Okay, if you do that, then I will.
share with me here. I'll start my share.
Okay.
And then make you a co-host.
All right.
Soon we'll all be co-hosts.
Yeah, we'll all be co-hosts.
Yeah,
That's
don't
right.
everybody try
All
to
chiefs,
share.
no Indians.
Don't everybody try to share their screen at the same time.
Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't send this sooner, but it'll just go a little bit quicker.
That's all right.
But while we're doing that, I'll remind you that we wrote a memo that Jack sent out to Dr. Vasilis back about a year ago now, is how long it's been, in which we had several items listed. And I just wanted to float out some of things that came up in my discussion with Dr. Vasilou. And
so you should be able to share your screen now.
Oh, I should be able to share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Here it is. Let's see.
No, pick a.
Wait, here it is. Okay.
Right window. So, right, there you go.
This is a memo that I prepared and Jack sent on behalf of CARD. You can see January 27th. It's not quite a year. Okay, it's 10 months, whatever, 9. And we came up with these specific ideas from our discussions that I put into the memo. And I would just like to float, knowing what I know about NIH grants and having discussed this with Dr. Vasilou, I can send this to Beth, and Beth could distribute it, or I can distribute it. I mean, whatever you want, however you want to do this. But this memo could be distributed, and people could think about whether they like some of these ideas more or less. But I thought that these 3 things meshed, and Dr. Vasilou also, I mean, in our discussions, this is what came out as the 3 things in this memo that best mesh with the Yale Center and what maybe could be the priorities from our CARD group. I would like to stress that I think a health effects study, I mean, if they're willing to do it, oh my gosh. I mean, if we found health effects in this population, it would really change everything that's happening, I think, with this situation. But it's a huge undertaking, and I've been trying to get someone to study health effects of this population for decades. So here's somebody who says, yeah, we're interested. And I'm like, the data collection, I'm not sure that this meshes as well. He said, okay, we'll think about it. I don't know they have the expertise, but this is for modeling that and studying this shallow groundwater just because it's new. This is a new exposure pathway. It's not really been, we don't have environmental data for it. We have this theoretical paper. So that's another one. But I thought that for CARD members here, what you probably, a lot of people would be interested in is the access or applications of sensors that can both detect dioxane and other sensors for removing dioxane at homes. In other words, not, that individual homes would have access to sensors and cleanup technology. So they're developing, they actually have projects that are developing these sensors. They're kind of neat. Don't ask me, I'm not an engineer, but they're like using nucleic acids. It's really strange.
Yeah, I need to talk to you about these last two things because those are current topics that popped up on my emails the last week.
Okay, so but I think that, I don't want to speak for everybody. These are among the ones that came out, but it seems like they would mesh well with the Yale Center and with NIH, because you always have to convince. The thing about NIH is you always have to convince that there's health involved. It's got to have a health angle because it's the National Institutes of Health. And so that's the thing. It's not that, EPA, everything can be, monitoring or detection and engineering, but not NIH. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I would have done all of this earlier, except I have been slowed down lately by some personal issues. So I apologize for that. I really wanted to bring this to the board actually earlier, but anyway, it's a start. So here it is. And I'd like people to sort of think about it. And if, we can do, Vesselus is just saying, whatever you can give back to me, I'm, interested. He says he'll write the grant. He'll,
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your attention to these matters. And I tend to agree with you on your choice of those three. So
okay.
Any other comments on Rita's discussion?
I think one option would be to try and provide as many good ideas as you have there, but prioritize them as to what we think is important, and then let them decide what they can do or can't do. And if it's high on the list, then they can do it. That may be, ideal situation. It could be difficult, but he's got a lot of people helping him, and so. And I think there's a lot of interest in this, what he's doing.
Well, he did ask for 1 to 3 ideas, and I can guarantee, I don't think he can pick all 3 of them, to be honest. So, and some of it's going to depend on what their expertise and finances, and when they do the budgets, what they think they can handle. So, I don't know.
Well, and I have a couple other sites that are dealing with those two issues.
Thanks.
All righty then. Any further comments on Rita's discussion? Seeing no hands, I'm going to move on to James. Go ahead, James.
Did Heather have anything?
Heather first. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Heather. I knew you were here. I apologize.
I'm always the second line on that.
Yes.
Quick update. The draft survey is in good shape. It's been approved internally at Nebraska Methodist College. It does still have to go through an internal review board, so that's another 2 weeks. So I think it's realistic that it could be sent to Beth and CARD for dissemination, hopefully in December, for a couple of months of open comment. You guys are basically one of many sites around the country that will be asked to fill out the survey in draft form. I just want to butter you all up and thank you very much for all the extra time that you've given me, in hopes that you will take the time to fill out, especially the evaluator section at the end of the survey. It's meant to allow communities to really characterize their community's experience with the dioxane. So you guys are actually one of the first guinea pigs, and you've provided a lot of the input. So I think some of the questions you'll see is very relevant to your community in particular. That said, it's got two parts. So it really does a knowledge test about dioxane initially. And if the person filling out the survey doesn't really know what dioxane is, then it's going to branch off into a much more general environmental survey. So if you're an expert, and basically everyone here is an expert, even including if Deborah Dingell's office wants to have somebody look at it, I'm really looking for expert input. So this can be generalized nationally. That would be super. So fill out that as an expert. I don't really need so much of the general information on environmental, but fill it out as an expert. I'll send a little consent form around with Beth, and yeah, they'll go. I ask everyone, you can cascade the survey link when it does come out. I'm looking for people who would probably know a little bit about dioxane. But if you think that there are other officials in that capacity that might have different viewpoints on a community survey, certainly go ahead and cascade it. It's not a probabilistic survey. It's a non-probability assessment. Yeah, Roger?
How many responses are you looking? What's your target number that you're looking for?
Well, I mean, it's a doctoral program. I think sometimes you're lucky if you get 50. I have the survey that I paid for is through SurveyMonkey, and I've paid for up to 15,000. So I could be pleasantly surprised, but I really hope I don't have to analyze 15,000 responses. I think.
Well, we could send it out to the whole card core list, except a lot of those people don't know enough about what's going on. They probably wouldn't be able to answer a lot of the questions, but.
Well, it's meant to be a common survey. So it really was designed so that if we have experts, that we can get more granularity, and there are more open-ended questions for people who have more expertise. But at the same time, it's got to fit with the whole community, and we want to know what the whole community is experiencing, right. As well as what the experts are saying. You want more granularity with the experts, because that can really inform policy. But you also want to know how your community is feeling in a general sense about their built environment and about the things going on around them. So hopefully it achieves both of that. It may be asking too much, and people may say that it's too long, and we may have to cut it. But a shout out to Rita. She also, gave me some input. Yale's been really helpful. And of course, Kristen, who was my community sponsor out there. So shout out to Kristen. You guys and everyone in the focus groups have been really wonderful. So I think it's in good stead, and hopefully it will be able to be posted in December is my real hope, unless the IRB finds some issues with it, and then I'll have a discussion internally with them. So that's my hope. So look for a link. Please do set aside, get a glass of wine or whatever you need, and sit down and take a good thought at it. It really will help, I think, not just Michigan, but a lot of other communities that are coming up with their Superfund research programs. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you a little about this after I get a chance to look that over.
Sounds good.
So thank you. And I apologize for skipping over you.
Sorry.
All right, James.
Thanks, Jack. A week and a half ago, State Representative Morgan and Jeff Irwin submitted the polluter cleanup and accountability package, bills that will be going through the House, State House, and Senate. And the goal to improve standards for environmental cleanup, prevent and clean up orphan sites, and hold polluters accountable for the cost of cleanup. I think the most important thing relative to us is the cleanup standards. And that is one part requiring cleanup to residential use or drinking water standards if technically feasible. And this intent is to disallow the use of institutional controls or use restrictions as a substitute for cleanup, i.e. no more prohibition zone. Remove detailed legal requirements for calculating cleanup criteria. allow new generic criteria to automatically overrule site-specific criteria, but only if the new criteria are more productive. There's a bill regarding transparency and due care, provide more information to the public and to the department. We require more due care from current owner operators who have a permit, though without a return to strict liability. We require to approve due care plan listing actions and timelines and reporting on compliance. I'm reading from a bullet point list here that I'm trying to wrap my arms around. There's much here. And self-managed cleanup so EGLE knows about all releases and approves response activities. Enables EGLE to set timelines and interim goals for response activities. Enable EGLE to revisit response plans and post-closure plans in light of new information. Require no further action report to show that remedial action has been completed. There's a bill package regarding medical monitoring cause of action. This enables people exposed to hazardous substances, a higher general population to sue.
You know what? Excuse me, James. I think what we need is a before and an after column, bullet points. And I'll work with you to pull up something like that so that, and then we can point to examples of why that's needed at this site, for instance.
Well, maybe we can talk after the meeting, but I'm just going to give you just the broad what it's going to be. I mentioned monitoring cause of action. There's also language regarding statute of limitations for NR EPA claims and statute of limitations for hazardous substance claims, a toxics tax, including for orphan sites, upfront financial insurances regarding orphan sites, and increasing fines for large corporations, and individual liability for gross negligence, including executives and principal officers, and authority to set cleanup criteria and language that's being changed. Many stakeholders have met and that are involved in the environmental community, and a number of which have been initially favorable. Representative Morgan and Jeff have been working with these groups, their offices, for some time on this over the spring and summer. To me, it's good news. Maybe not so good news is that the legislature is about to go on recess until the next calendar year. There's a special election that's being held today, on which 2 legislators are likely to move on to other offices, and so that may even change the state house. Those are likely to remain. These are Democratic representatives. They're likely to remain in Democratic hands. There'll be some changes in terms, I think, in the timeline in terms of when action will take. This is something we need probably look at in the first quarter. So I think there's much ahead of us, and Roger, I agree with you. I think we can look at this, and I think we need to be working with Senator Irwin's office moving forward. It's what's great. We have some allies in the legislature that are with us, and I know that Sue Shink was a co-sponsor of this legislation as well.
Yeah, well, I was involved when trying to not allow the Engler administration and the GOP at the time to do away with the polluter pay law we had back in the 90s. So I fed all that information to the teams, and apparently it helped some. But one of the major things, and I think you mentioned it earlier in one of our meetings, that it's going to help assure that no more or minimal costs and risk are going to be passed to the public, like have been happening all these years. You know, because the polluters should pay for their pollution and not rely on taxpayer money and individuals to bail them out. Yeah.
But this is exciting to see this, and I'm glad that we have some champions of legislature. I'm glad that the political winds are in our favor to possibly make this happen. This isn't a done deal. It's going to require advocacy to put this over the line and put something that we want over the line.
Yeah.
But it's a breath of fresh air. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So keep well, I'll help you create a list of what these topics are and what you know, how they're changing and what the examples would be to why they need to be doing this, because that might help them pass it.
Sure. I should also disclaim that I'm working with the Michigan chapter of Sierra Club in terms of monitoring this legislation, working with Senator Irwin's office as well. So I am, unlike many of people here in this room on this call, I am not an environmental engineer, and I'd be interested in members' input in terms of how I communicate with the legislature as well. Both hats I wear.
Okay.
But James, do you have a bill number for this?
There is one. I don't have it in front of me. I have drafts of legislation. I do not have actual bill. I think that I'm not sure if they've been assigned yet or not.
As I recall, it touched a lot of existing statutes and things, so it's pretty complicated. But it's going to all try to be done in one comprehensive bill, as I understand it.
Correct.
So when you do have bill numbers, if you'd pass those along, we can follow it. You know, the staff will do an analysis of it, and all of that will help us advocate on behalf of passage. So,
yeah,
great.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Yusuf.
Where's Yusuf?
Yeah, I just want to thank James for presenting on that. Obviously, this is very exciting that these bills are reintroduced. And as the sponsor of these bills for 6 years, I was excited when actually there was a fight over who would introduce these bills this term. I had several reps reach out to me and ask for the bills towards the end of my last term and into January. And so, we worked it all out, and, obviously Morgan is now introducing them. But in terms of the bill numbers, there's a series of bills. So it's House Bill 605, or Senate Bill 605 through 610 on the Senate side. And I don't have the House bill numbers, but those are the Senate bill numbers.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Appreciate that. Yosef, I did not have those.
Yeah,
Card
will share those once we get the complete list.
Yeah, and then one other thing I wanted to say, emphasizing a point that James made. This is definitely not a done deal, and given the amount of consternation and struggle that we had just to get the energy bills passed, which are far from perfect, but still something. There will be a very, very long fight ahead on these bills, including, some serious stakeholders that are going to weigh in opposition. Some have already weighed in opposition, including the Michigan Manufacturers Association and, the chamber and several other large manufacturers like Dow and so on. And unfortunately, even though we have, this great Democratic majority, there's a lot of attention paid to those organizations, probably more so than should be. But they will have a role in guiding and shaping this legislation. So a lot yet to be written, but really glad that these got introduced. And thank you, James, for presenting.
Thank you, Yosef. Appreciate it.
And Yosef, thank you for all your prior work on this and current work.
Amen.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. It's kind of cool to see, it's like I was keeping a match alive during a rainstorm, and now the fires are burning again. So it's kind of cool to see that on polluter pay and also on the energy bills too. A lot of that was stuff that I had worked on for 6 years, and so it's kind of cool to see it coming up again. So thank you.
Yeah, we know something about persistence in this group.
Yes.
Don't you?
So Yusuf, as long as we've got you here, is there anything that you want to add from the point of view of county board of representative or board of whatever you guys are, commissioners?
From the commissioners, I don't have anything, unfortunately, this evening. I'm still working on several things, but my attention has been divided with a lot of other things happening at the county, including our budget. One thing that is relevant probably to this group that I've been working on pretty intensely is our county sustainability plan. in the plan, there was a proposal to fund 3 positions to kind of spearhead the sustainability and resilience work at the county. And the county has gone for a year without funding those positions. And we are very far behind on our sustainability goals. And so it's something that the Environmental Council has pushed very hard for. And we have finally gotten it to a point where administration has recommended funding 1 position for 1 year. So that's something, but I have made a budget recommendation that hopefully will be considered in 2 weeks, or on the 15th. Actually, it's under 2 weeks now, but to fully fund the sustainability plan and hire all 3 positions as structural positions. And this could have an impact on the work that we're doing, obviously, because, you know, having 3 essentially new environmental staff at the county, you know, could help with everything from, you know, helping to push for good legislation in Lansing to, you know, changing county policies, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure that they will take interest in the work that CART is doing. So if you want to help support that, come out to our November 15th meeting and speak a public comment or send a letter now to county commissioners asking them to pass this as part of the budget process.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, did you have something to add? You're mute.
You know, going back to this polluter pay, the state action, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I got a weird feedback thing. Is there any concern that the state, now that the state law has the potential to actually be in place and help out communities that are suffering under these various conditions, that is this going to work okay with our potential EPA, you know, status? Are we gonna be in a situation where we hopefully do not find that we are in a better situation under a law that didn't exist, and now we're stuck in this new thing with the federal government versus the state polluter pay laws? I mean, is there any, we're still going to be in a good place after this hopefully passes?
Can you answer that?
I guess what I would say is, like, the chances of that happening are so minuscule that I don't think that we should concern ourselves with it. I mean, basically, if these bills pass in the form that they were introduced, I will buy everybody on this call multiple meals for the rest of your lives. I don't think that that's going to happen. And so I think, you know, it's likely that these bills will be watered down, pun intended. The solution to pollution is dilution, I guess. But the reality is that, yeah, these bills aren't going to pass in the form that they were introduced. So, you know, and even if they do, I have to do a deeper dive, but I'm fairly confident that the EPA standards are still better.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, in terms of, I've had a couple side conversations, even if these bills are passed in their best form, I mean, hasn't Gelman never, I'm asking now, Gelman has never admitted to being the polluter? And isn't it also that we're still under the litigation working court order, even if these bills are passed?
Hey, James, this is Dan. The short answer is that the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation Liability Act, CERCLA, which we all call Superfund, is going to be much more protective than even if these bills are passed in the state. So we're going to be in a much better position to be with the federal government than with the state government. In addition, because, like you say, Gelman likes to litigate and play around, we're going to have the Department of Justice helping us, as well as the Office of Regional Counsel helping us to combat Gelman's little antics on the legal side if we're in the Superfund program. So I think overall, Joseph is right that the criteria, the requirements are going to be in our favor with a federal Superfund site than a state site.
Thank you.
Yep, I agree. Anything else? Thank you, Yusuf. Oh, go ahead, Glenn.
I've worked both CERCLA and Part 201, and I agree with what was just said by Dan Bicknell. I will caution you that it's a slow, ponderous process. Don't hold your breath.
Some of us will be gone before this is addressed fully, but
yeah, Glenn, thanks a lot. It's been 38 years on the state path. Time for a new path.
Yep. The urgency was in starting this process, knowing that we've done our part. We may not be here to see it concluded, but we've done our part here. So, all righty then. Roger has highlighted, should we cancel the January 2nd meeting? Are there any opinions on this?
Well, I put that in there just because it's the day after New Year's, and I don't know. What do you guys think?
Are there what day of the there still be football games going on that?
Yes.
I think we just go ahead and cancel because
Okay.
the December meeting is going to be the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is everyone okay? Is there anyone opposed to canceling it?
We expect a lot of information to happen between December and January.
And we can send out emails, and if we want to have a meeting in the middle of January, we can decide to. But for now, then we will plan on canceling that one. The next topic, though,
Well, here's my view of that as chair. I think we can cancel meetings like we just did if we feel there's not going to be enough happening, rather than formally go to quarterly and then miss some important developments.
I agree.
It's easier to cancel a meeting than to insert a meeting.
I agree.
All right, that meeting's canceled then.
Everybody agree with that? Anybody disagree? Okay.
All right, other issues? Any executive board member can raise any issue at this point in time if they have something that hasn't been discussed so far. Seeing none, I'm going to hand this over to the chair.
Yeah, and I've got my update in a Google PowerPoint. It's basically rehashing what I covered last month. So I'm not going to go into it in detail. There's a couple changes in here. You can read at your leisure. But it mainly talks about the dioxane going north through Scioto Township in homeowner wells. And Scioto found a couple, 3 dozen homes with detectable amounts of dioxane. The state went back and sampled a number of those, and of the ones that Scioto found, the state missed about 40% of the hits because its sampling method is not as refined as the US EPA 522 method. So that'll be these green dots here, these green circles, and anyway, so as we pointed out, there's kind of this channel, this underground channel that's going to the river, and it's 100 or 150 feet or more below ground. Even when it gets to the river, it'll be underneath the river. It won't immediately go to the river at the surface. It'll meander someplace and come up maybe down here, closer to the input, so it might not be watered down as much. We don't know. So it's important that we have good sampling for this. This is why I've left this in, and we have relates back to the resolution that we just talked about. This is the points that Dan Bicknell provided, and we incorporated into that resolution. Why we need the best sampling in homeowner wells going forward, and Gelman should be paying for that. And here's again the summary of those findings. Here's all where dioxane, not just in Scioto Township sampling and Ann Arbor Township sampling, but these are where dioxane's been found over the years. This going back to using the pre-95 data, not all of which is in the current database. So this is where dioxane has been sampled. This is the same view where dioxane has been found. So you can see some hits that are outside of where you would normally see hits. Anyway, this seems to be the kind of flow of dioxin because this is the groundwater flows in this general areas. This darker line is one I had to add because it wasn't on the normal flow lines, but now that we have the data, we can add that line. And then there was a cross-section update that because we have these new wells in here, overlaid on these old cross-sections, there's some aquifer layers here that weren't in the original cross-section. We don't have an updated cross-section yet from the company or from the state, but that's sure to come with the next iteration, I'm told. And some of these are, it's troubling because, you know, if there's an aquifer there and there's water moving to that aquifer and there's dioxin in the water, then there's going to be dioxin in those layers. There's some loose ends that I'm still following up with the state on, and I expect that that will happen. This was an article that was posted that talked about how federal grants pollution remediation increase property values around the Great Lakes. So that supports that statement that Dan has made before and others, that when you have a Superfund site, your home values stabilize and go up, where if you have a Superfund size site and Superfund's not in charge, then you have problems. So it's good that we have the Superfund in charge. And that's all good news. So I think that's all I have with that. I do have, I've started putting some layers from the EPA report on my Google Earth overlays, so you can see, you know, which of the wells are the wells that they actually tested. I'm not ready to share a lot of this stuff yet, but that'll be coming in future months. I think that's all I have. Any questions? I want to end the meeting early, as you can tell. All right. Thanks, everyone. Here's the back to Jack. You're muted.
You're mute, Jack.
Sorry. I say that might be a record for how short the chair's comments were this time. Any comments or questions of Roger? I see none. Any non-agenda items anybody wants to raise? I see none. So our next meeting is our quarterly meeting, and I look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
And we're going to get rid of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to Jenny or Kristen about making sure the county gets it off the website and stuff. So.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And we do have to find a local person to help Beth, because she's doing a great job, but she's doing this remotely.
Yeah. Yep.
And, you know, I think she'd appreciate local help.
Well, we've got 2 new board members that are going to do that.
Sure, right. No,
Rita and James.
Aha, the strategy comes through.
No, I think Dan could be a good secretary, right, Dan?
I could be a good chairman, Roger.
Hey, by the way, Dan, your lighting on your Zoom is really good right now. I don't know.
That's because I went underneath the sun lamp for a little while.
No, it wasn't that.
So, Beth, I the last time I was on the county's webpage, they had the old bylaws.
I asked them to change that as well. I think the new one is in there.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff. What do you have to say?
Oh, yeah, you know, I wasn't I don't want to drag it out. It's not really official, but I just had a question. Like, maybe at some point I could talk to somebody from SIO, because I heard this strange thing about SIO Township's growth being limited by the amount of sanitary that the city of Ann Arbor can supply them. And I know that isn't really our business exactly, but you know, when we talk about the EPA and how they might have to kick water out to people and so on, and that would be the city having to kick water out to people. And I just wondered if anybody could illuminate that potential limitation on growth of out on the ends of our Ann Arbor city water system, based on our capacity to handle the sanitary flow from the same contracts.
Well, what we know
Something
about
for the future.
But it came up on the KFC site because they're trying to get water, but there's not enough sewer to go out there, so they're going to be adding a lot of outside water to that area.
Well, the city of Ann
And
Arbor,
at some point, you're going to get some issues.
yeah, the city of Ann Arbor is also having issues with drinking water. They were trying to go to Detroit Water, Great Lakes Water Authority.
Well, it's not the water. There's
Well,
enough
no,
water
that's-
capacity. It was the sewer capacity that goes with it that was the problem.
Well,
Yeah, I had heard it described as they had been given a certain number of sanitary units that they could use up, and that was it.
Well, the groundwater, the water from the Great Lakes Water Authority had nothing to do with sewer. It was drinking water. And Rita and Dan Bicknell spoke before council, and they decided that it was a really bad idea, very expensive, very energy intensive. And so that was a big fight to try and get more water. So they, city wants to do a lot of high, tall buildings, turn themselves into the new Detroit, I guess. But
80,000 new residents by 2030 is what the 820 plan says.
Oh, God.
So that's a water issue big time for the
Oh,
city of
yeah.
Ann Arbor. And that's why we need to protect our fresh water. It's not readily available everywhere. You can protect it.
I sure hope that water-based organisms are making those decisions.
Yeah, if I could respond to a couple of your questions. SIO has a contract with the city of Ann Arbor for municipal water and sewer services. There's a designated area. The sewer service area is much smaller than the water service area. And if SIO wants to increase capacity in the sewer service area, the contract requires renegotiation beyond a certain point. And as I understand it, we have more than 1,000 REUs, the residential equivalent units, that they use to calculate new development sewer capacity needs. So right now, we aren't even close to needing to renegotiate that contract.
Oh, okay. I heard
understand.
1,200 was the number. So yeah, that's what I heard. Okay. I didn't really understand what they meant by that. So
Yeah, that's a calculation that the civil engineers use for estimating how much sewer capacity a typical, let's say, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom home will need. And so based on that, they calculate the REUs, or a business. Now, the business calculation is different than the residential calculation.
Okay.
all right. Well, yeah, thank you. I just I ask in writing and in person and everything about the sanitary capacity of the city because we're landlocked there basically, or waterlocked, I guess. And I never could get a straight answer forever unless I talked to the people at the plant. And the answer they told me was, hey, what is our daily operating capacity? Their number was much higher than the number that the administration was barely willing to tell me. And so I was always concerned about that when it came to, our regional or even local planning matters. Are we able to add 80,000 people, which is 120,000 toilets or whatever, So all right. Well, just curious. I appreciate that information. It'll give me some stuff to look up and expand my knowledge of how our systems work. So thank you.
Go ahead, Rita.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and it's probably it would have been better to say even earlier, but I tried. When we switch to a quarterly meeting, and it's going to be a morning meeting, right, at 10 o'clock? Am I correct? It's
The quarterly meeting's always in the mornings. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there are lots of people who don't know that and lots of people who forget it. And so I think when we announce that the next meeting is a quarterly meeting, I think it would be a great idea to say, remember, it's at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, remember the time. Yeah. Highlight the time.
Yeah, because I know that I don't know if she's still on. Heather once missed a meeting because of that. And I do think that it can be, you know, confusing for people. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to conclude this meeting.
Let me
Okay.
stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Jack.
I thought Jack had
Thanks,
something he
everyone.
was going to tell us. No, you're not going to tell us anything,
Yeah.
Jack?
Thanks to the new members, new board members.
What would you like me to tell you?
You have some news?
We are adjourned. How about that?
What did the council do in their closed session yesterday?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to see if you could find out.
Oh,
I was unable to find that out.
I know you didn't have much time, especially if you wanted to eat dinner.
Honestly, I have not eaten yet, so that's
go eat. Get out of
that's
here.
why I'm trying to hurry people off the screen.
Sure.
You just
Okay, I'll leave. Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
was it an impromptu meeting? I mean, closed session? Are they mad about the EPA announcement?
We don't know. They had a closed session. They didn't announce what the subject was. You know, we finally convinced Postema that he had to announce what the reason for closed sessions. And they have a new city attorney, and I don't think she's doing that. So I will look into it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I was at the meeting until they went into the session. Then I split. I didn't stick around to see when they came out. If they, you know how it was, sometimes they'd come out and they'd announce a little resolution that was vaguely worded or whatever to take care of some business they had decided. But I'm not sure that happened last night. So.
Yep. Alrighty then.